Good morning, everyone. All right, my name is John Vereecken. Now, they sent me an email and said, would you please just tell us if it's John, if it's Johnny, if it's Juan, or if it's JV? And then I introduced myself, so it just really didn't matter, did it? So you can call me John, you can call me Johnny, you can call me Juan, you can call me JV, you can call me anything you want, but it's good to be here this morning. We get to talk about missions this morning. You know, one thing I do want you to know, those missionaries on that video, finest people in the world. I know every one of them, absolutely spectacular missionaries. And I commend this church for for supporting such class people representing you and me around the world. And I'm honored and really humbled to be co-laborers with these guys in the world. So well, it's wonderful to be here this morning. My lovely wife Carla's here, and I've got family here and friends here. I just look around. Usually I don't look around as much, but I look around in this place and I see people that I know and just smile at people and love to be at Resurrection Life Church. This is our home. Carla and I have been on the foreign field for 32 years. And now we are your missionaries. So I will also give a little report, but let me just share real quick our beginning. In May 23rd, 1984, I found myself in a little Indian village called El Frijol. That means the bean town. I was taken there by Pastor Dwayne and Jeannie. I was 19 years old. It was 5:30 in the afternoon. Walked outside of a little hut after eating chicken feet soup. And I was walking, took about 5 steps down a dirt road, and God spoke to me. And what I heard his voice and said, this is where I want you to begin. I was going to be a missionary. Didn't know what that was. Had never, ever heard. I hadn't heard the term. I didn't know what that was. But it's been 32 years now. Carla and I have never, once we left the United States, have never lived back in the United States long term. We live in a country that's not our own, and it's 32 years later. And I do know what a missionary is now, and I do have a fire and a passion for missions. And I get the honor to talk to you real quick this morning about that, because this church has 4 pillars. And you all been celebrating. I got my fancy days. It's a fantastic little booklet. And in this booklet, celebrating 50 years, Resurrection Life Church has 4 main pillars that really prop up the vision, or that are the vision of this church. The first one's the Word. The Word is you and God. Next one is worship. That's you and God. The next one is family. Well, the next one is youth and children. That's you and God and your family. But the fourth one is different. The fourth one isn't about you, and it's not about me. The fourth one's missions. And that's about you and others. That's about God's plan for you, God's plan for me, about others. And that's what I get to talk to you about today. So it's not going to be long today. It's going to be quick, but it's going to be to the point. I'm going to ask some deep and some strong questions. And in just a minute, we're going to get interactive. So you can't be quiet this morning. I know it's snowing out, and I know it's cold out, and I know you're thinking about leaving and getting some coffee. But beforehand, you and I are going to get jacked up. Because I've been preparing this for a month, and I'm ready to go. So I hope you're ready to go. And I told them, be ready in the sound booth, because I have a tendency to get loud. But today, I want to get so loud that the veins are popping out of my neck. And I want you to, too. Hold on, it's not time yet. Totally out of order in the church. I just tease them. Hey, but before I do that, let me give you a quick report. We did a missions report there. I'll give you a quick report about this year. I asked them to put a few numbers up on the screen, because these reports could seem like they're crazy, but they're true. This year, just tell you a little bit about what you're doing this year. Through our leadership organization, we have over 500,000 people in values-based roundtables. What that means is in Latin America, we have a roundtable of 6 to 8 people coming together once a week studying a value. Now, a value, and we don't tell them they're God's values, but a real true value is really God's character. When you talk about honesty, when you talk about integrity, when you talk about responsibility, when you talk about true values, you're just studying God's character. Well, so we connect with these people, we add value to them, help their lives get better. We got 500,000 in roundtables in the countries we're working in. That's from the presidents on down. We don't even go into a country unless the president of the country, he or she, agrees to be in a values-based roundtable. Then once we add value to them, we get the opportunity, we share Christ with them. And this year, we've had 30,065 people receive Jesus as their Lord and Savior. And that's cool. I've been on stage and watched generals, watched police officers, watched political people, watched educators, watched sports figures, watched arts, the people in the arts, in the media. And when they get a true picture of God, say, if that's God, I want to know him. And it's just been the wildest thing in the world. Just love it. Besides our leadership organization, we do church planting. We have a church in Saltillo, Mexico. And real quick, we planted a church in Monterey. I think most of you know that. I've talked about that here before. Planted a church 2 years and 9 months ago. 3 Sundays ago, we had our first Sunday with over 1,000 people. So that church is rolling. We're planting a church in Mexico City, little city of 26 million people, 3 times the state population of Michigan packed into a town. Check that out. So we figured, well, we better have a church there. So you're part of that. And then Cuba. I'm going to show you some quick pictures of Cuba. And right now, in Cuba, we planted 25 new churches in unchurched towns this year. And you can start throwing up. And you might think when somebody says a church, you might think of like Res Life. Okay, that's the beginning. If you read your pamphlet, that's the way we started out here too, with that little sticks and stuff like that. No, most people do not live like we live in Western Michigan. Hello? So those are churches. That church right there, well, that church got the side of it blown off of it from the hurricane. That's a church. That's a church. Pass that on there. That guy in the striped shirt there, not the blue stripe, the other blue stripe, the one on this side, the Omnis, him and his wife live in a town that they're on stilts and they live in a rice patch. Water flows underneath their house. And they're there as testimonies of Jesus Christ in that town, and there's a church being built there now. Pass that on, throw in a couple more pictures of Cuba up there. There's a bunch of Cuban kids. They're the coolest ever. There's another church. Any more Cuban pictures up there? There's some more. Hey, let me tell you who these guys are. We support, when I say we, you support a seminary, or it's really a Bible school, where pastors are trained for 1 year. They go to school for 6 months, then they go out and help another pastor, then they come back and are trained again, and 25 of them will graduate this year, and they'll all go to a new city in Cuba and plant a church. You remember, probably the majority of you don't remember, but in 1993, I was on the phone talking to this church from Guadalajara, Mexico, and began to cast vision with you all and who was in this church at the time about Cuba. At that time, I still remember, we raised $35,000 to go and to start a work in Cuba. And from that, we have, and I could take you to Cuba and I can take you to the people, and they would tell you, through our labor together, we've changed the history of Cuba together. It is possible. It's possible. I know I'm talking to you about places that you probably don't have a point of reference, but when I think of that, I think of different people in my mind, and God has allowed us together to do some incredible things, but it's really just the beginning. I read in the pamphlet here, 50 years of missions. We've sown, this church has sown almost $47 million into world missions. And let me tell you something, every single cent, every sacrifice that somebody has made to make this happen, it's all worth it. It's all worth it. One day we'll get to heaven and we'll think, why didn't I do more? What the world was I thinking? It's all worth it, let me tell you what. So let me talk about missions a little bit. You know, Jesus was a missionary. Jesus came to earth and he fulfilled his mission. And then when he left a group of people known as his followers, known as the church. He left them a task. And that task is the same task that he has left you and left me. It wasn't just them. And basically, Jesus said, you know what, guys? Okay, I've done what I need to do. Now what I need you to do is to go into all the world, go into every single place in this world and share the good news that there is salvation in me. And then Jesus was gone. And since then, that is our task. That is the task at hand. There is no other task, there is no other thing that is more important on planet Earth in your life than to share Jesus with somebody else. That is the task that he has given us. But never ever in the history of planet Earth has planet Earth seen days like we're living today. Terror, murder, fear, hatred, all kinds of crazy things going on. And it seems to me that most of us, and when I say us, I'm talking about people, but I'm going to get a little deeper here. Most of the church has taken on a posture of retracting. Taking on a posture of, well, I hope it doesn't happen to me. Well, I'm gonna back up, isolate myself in my little world, and hopefully all of that bad stuff that's happening in the world doesn't happen to me. Well, there's a problem with that, guys. There's a big problem. Because Jesus didn't ask us to live our life on defense. He gave us the ball and said, go ahead, do something with it. You got the ball. I got the ball. It's in our hands. And yeah, it's a tough chore. In there's danger out there. There's threats out there. Somebody could lose their life. But that's the task that he's given us. Because we are the church. We are the church. This is it. If we don't do it, no one else is going to do it. Friends, we're the church. Balcony, we're the church. Matter of fact, for the rest of this message, this is what I want to do. Could you say that with me? We are the church. Okay, that was pretty good for the first time. But remember the neck sweating, veins popping out? See, because, and we might have a visitor here, and you might think, this dude's off his rocker. Well, maybe so, but I'm just a guest speaker. I'll be in Mexico next week, and so you just forget about me. But I think so many times we forget this is that we are the church. This building isn't the church. The buildings we show, that's where we meet. Those are different things, but we are the church. Where is the? I'm gonna talk like if we were a football team, or a basketball team or something. Like, where's the pride in that we're the church? Why are we always on defense? Why aren't we on offense? Jesus' last command was an offensive command. Go into all the world and share the good news with others. Why? Because we are the church. Okay, so this is what I want you to do. From now on, until I end my message, every time I say why and pause, I want you to shout out, because we are the church. All right? So why? Yep, it's going to work. This is what Jesus said, John 20:21. Again, Jesus said, peace be with you. As the Father has sent me, I am sending you. Okay, God sent me from heaven to earth. Now I'm sending you from this place to all other places. Matthew 28:18. Then Jesus came to them and said, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations. Mark 16:15. And he said to them, go into all the world and preach the gospel. And when it says preach, when we think preach, a lot of times we think, oh, there's got to be a platform and there's got to be a pulpit or a table or whatever. Preach means declare. Preach doesn't mean you have to know how to publicly speak. Preach means declare. Go into all the world and declare, tell, say that there's salvation in Jesus Christ. Just really simple. Go into where? All the world and preach the gospel to all creation. So that's what Jesus said. And now what I want to do is I want to read one more passage, and this is Paul talking about the church, and then I want to ask you 4 probing questions. Questions that I hope leave you and I very uncomfortable. Very uncomfortable. This is what Paul said to the church in Rome. Romans 10:14-15, Paul said this. How then can they call on the one they have not believed in? And how can they believe in the one whom they have not heard? And how can they hear without somebody preaching or declaring to them? And how can anyone declare unless they are sent? As it is written, how beautiful are the feet of those who bring good news. In that passage up there, you've got the lost, you've got the goer, you've got the sender, and you've got what God thinks about the goer and the sender. God thinks that the goer and the sender are beautiful. Right? When God sees somebody that's consumed with going or with sending, when God sees somebody that's consumed with his mission. Let me ask you a question I thought I was going to ask right at the end, but I'm going to ask you right now because I want you to think about this. Are you more interested in God or in God's mission? Are you more interested in God or God's mission? Are you more devoted to God than the things that God's interested in? Because if the answer is yes, you and I got a problem. Because God said, if me and you are in cahoots, all right, this is what I want you to do. I want you to be consumed with the world, consumed with the world, consumed with telling people about my son Jesus. Because when it's all said and done, we've got a real short time here on planet Earth, and that's what it's all about. We'll be gone. This is it. So are we consumed? Are you more consumed with God, just you and God? God, it's just you and I. We do worship songs and, oh, Lord, and we talk about what God has done for us, and that's wonderful. I'm not demeaning that or downplaying that. That's wonderful, but that's one part, friends. That's one part. One part. And if the people of this world, people that don't love us, people that don't have something good in mind for us, people that want to kill us, people that want to do harm to other people, if those people are on our hearts, something's wrong. Something's wrong. This has turned into a religion. Let's go to church on Sunday. And that's not what it's about. And I want the church to rise up and say, because we are the church, we will live different. Because we are the church. It's us. It's our time. Because that was Jesus' command. And that was the task that he left us. So here we go. 4 important questions I want you to think about, listen real close, because these are tricky questions, and they're probing. Number 1, why should a person set aside his or her own personal aspirations to live a life to serve others, to help others, to live a life for others. Why? Because we are the church. Why should somebody set aside their own passion, their own vision, my dream, my this, my that? Why would somebody set that aside? I didn't say why. But I liked it. I liked it. Why would somebody set that aside? Their own aspirations to live a life to help others, to bless others. Because we're the church. And if we don't do it, no one's going to do it. Don't think the government's going to do it. Don't think the organizations are going to do it. There's great organizations. There's parachurch organizations. That's wonderful. And so, but we are the church. You and me. If you are a Christ follower, you're the church, baby. This is it. So why would a person set aside what could be for themselves to create what should be for somebody else? Because we are the church. That's why. And that's different. And yeah, that's different. And in other people's eyes, that's different. And it's different than what the news tells you, and it's different than what propaganda tells you. Why would you live? Why would you not have the best for yourself? Why wouldn't you look out for number one? Because there's only one number one, and you and I serve him, and that's him. And if he said, John, my heart is for everybody else in this world, well, I better live, eat, sleep, breathe, think his mission. And that's what I want to challenge you to do today too. I've got a friend in Venezuela. His name's Alvaro Rea. I'm going to put a picture up there. That's Alvaro. Alvaro's on this side. His wife's on this side. Their boy. And that guy's a hero. I don't know if you all know, but Venezuela is the new Cuba. Venezuela is imploding as a country. Chavez turned the country over to a person that didn't have a clue what they're doing, just hardcore communists, took the country further. They've had tens of thousands of bolivares, that's their money, devaluation. Millionaires are now paupers. Going on 3 million people have left that country. Alvaro and his wife have the means to leave that country, but they didn't. They planted their flag. This is where we go. That country is Caracas. The city of Caracas is the #1 violent city in the world. Not the Middle East, Caracas right now. They live in Barquisimeto. They planted their flag and said, well, there's things that we could move to the United States. Any Venezuelan can move to the United States right now and claim political asylum. So that's why there's so many here. There's so many everywhere. I have 150 new Venezuelans in Mexico in my church. But Alvaro and his wife planted their flag and said, no, we're going to give our life to these people that are here. And you've got clashes between the army and the uproar and people that want to tumble the government and this and that. And they call up Alvaro. See that guy there? Look at that beautiful smile. They said, will you go in? Will you negotiate? Will you help them from not killing? They had a group kidnapped of 15 people here and this and that. Will you go in? He walks in. And he negotiates and says, guys, let's have peace. Let's look for the best solution for our country. It's got a church of about 6,000 people in Barquisimeto, teaching the people how to love Christ in a situation that you and I can't even imagine. Why would a person set their own aspirations aside? And I want you to think about this one thing. See those little kids there? And you think, oh, well, what's going to happen to little kids? Those little kids are going to be fine because he decided we're going to live life for Christ. We're going to do what's right for Christ, and they're going to be fine, and they'll be heroes just like their parents will. We use our family for excuses so many times. Oh, it's because my family's not perfect. Hello? No, we got to have this. We're so focused on our family. And family's part of it, but your family doesn't have to be perfect for you to be on task and say, Jesus, I'm going to live on task, and I'm going to do what you asked me to do. Question number 2. Why should a person live a lifestyle beneath what they could? Listen, why should a person live a lifestyle beneath what they really could? I'm going to say it again. Why should a person live a lifestyle beneath what they really could live just so they can give as much money as possible to fulfill God's mission on earth? Why? Because we're the church. Because we're the church, I'm willing to not just go all out on me. Let's back it down some. Let's back it down. Let's not think about us, bigger, newer, fancier. Let's live beneath what we could, so that we can just send as much resources to as many places as possible. Remember what Paul wrote to the church at Rome. How beautiful are the feet of them that send the good news. I've got a friend, his name's Jerry Anderson. Jerry, I'm not going to put his picture up there, but Jerry owns part of a TV network that if I said the name, you would know who it is. You would understand his affluency. Jerry lives in a place called Berlin, Ohio. He lives amongst the Amish. And he's not Amish, but I was with him about 2 months ago, and Jerry took me to his house, and we went around and did some stuff and this and that. I know Jerry. I've known Jerry for lots and lots of years. Jerry probably single-handedly, with his resources, has helped to mold 3 or 4 different countries in Latin America more than any church organization, singly-handed, just by sowing finances into those countries. Getting good people, getting a plan, and making it work. And I looked around and I thought to myself, what an awesome example of a person that is willing to say, I could, but why? I'm good. That even rhymed. I could, but why? I'm good. Why should a person live a lifestyle beneath what they really could live just so that they can give as much money as possible to fulfill God's mission on earth? Why? Because we are the church. And that's what the church does. If you think any other person on planet earth is going to do this, you're wrong. Ain't going to happen. There's no one else thinking about this. Listen to me. No one else is thinking about this. There's no one else on planet Earth thinking, I'm going to live below my means so I can do as much as possible. They don't exist. It's us. Number 3. Why should a person leave the comfort and security of their own home, their own family, their own community or country so that they can develop a relationship outside their own world so that they can share Christ? Why? Because we are the church. Because we are the church. Because we are the church. We're willing to break outside of our little world, our little bubble, and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to move to a different community because I want to move. No, because there needs to be a witness of Jesus Christ in that community. And so, you know what, dear, let's do something. Or, you know what, we're going to put together something. We're going to help somebody to move. Why would somebody step outside of their own world to go into somebody else's world? Because we are the church. And that's what your heavenly Father wants you to do. And that's what he wants me to do. We are the church. I think I've told this story here, but I'll tell it again. There's a man named Carlos. I'm going to put a picture of Carlos. That's Carlos in the green, good-looking guy on the right-hand side there. That's his wife that he's holding there. That's his daughter, son-in-law, another boy in the back. Carlos and his wife, they call her the Spaniard. I don't even know what her name is. They just call her the Spaniard because she's from Spanish descent. And back in 1994, we did a camp on the east side of the island of Cuba. Excuse me, on the west side of the island of Cuba. And Carlos and his wife, they were just kids. They'd been married, but they didn't have any kids. And we prayed for them. And this is what they did. This is what they did. This is their story. Right, this was just a few months ago. I was there. Matter of fact, we helped him buy a car. He pastors 15 churches and has a bicycle. 15 churches. I'm talking about like Allendale, Standale, Cascade, Kentwood, Jennison, who knows what. To think of that and think of bike riding there to pastor the church. So we bought him a car. When I say we, well, you all support us, and we did that, so we did it together. You can go home today and say, I bought a car in Cuba. So I took some money and we helped him buy a car. But back then, that was 26 years ago. Carl and I prayed for them at this camp. They went home and said, we've got to do something about this mission that God's given us. So this is what they did. This might not fit into your doctrine, but this is what they did. They laid a map of Cuba, because in Cuba, you can't get out of the country, so you can't go anywhere outside the country. But they laid a map of Cuba on the kitchen table, and the Spaniard, she blindfolded Carlos. And she blindfolded him, and he said, okay, spin me around 3 times. So they spun him around 3 times. And then when they put him in front of the table, he said, all right, here it goes. He lifted a finger up, and he put his finger down, and boom. He said, that's the place. That's where we're going. They picked up, you can't move in Cuba without finding somebody that wants to trade with you. So they traded an elderly lady. They moved from Havana, which is the big city. They moved out to this countryside. And in a town that at that time there was no running water. They had to go fetch water and come back and this and that. Carlos and his wife landed in a new town. Within 3 days, had 120 of their neighbors coming to their house to hear about Jesus. In their town of 300 people, they have 300 people in their church. He started 15 other churches. They're simple people. They're not sophisticated. You and I have way more resources than they do. But they just did it. Why would a person step out of their own comfort in their own house, in their own community, just to go somewhere else and to be a witness for Jesus? Why? Because we're the church and we got to do it. Nobody else is going to do it. Nobody else is thinking about this. And this is a pillar of Resurrection Life Church. This is our pillar. I want you to get involved. I want you to do something. I want you to be uncomfortable when you leave today. Now, I got one more question. My time's up, and I'm going to finish. I'll just give you the question real quick, and I want to do something. Why would a group of people gather every Sunday? Think about this. Pray for the world. Love people that are different than them, and send people as missionaries into the world of people that aren't even asking for them to come, or might even want to kill them. Why? Because we are the church. Because we are the church. I believe there's people in this place right now that something's happened on the inside of their heart and they're thinking, I'll put my life on the line. I'm ready to do something. That's the task at hand. I'm willing to do something. Why? Because we are the church. Friends, we are the church. Pillar of this church, missions. Go into all the world and preach the gospel. Got a good friend of mine that did this. I'm going to put his picture up there and I'm going to finish. His name's Gabriel. So I'm going to picture Gabriel. Gabriel's Argentinian, lives in, there's Gabriel. Gabriel's Argentinian, lives in Portugal, and goes to Guinea. Is that the way you say it in English, Guinea? Guinea. 4th poorest country in the world, Guinea. It'd be the west side of Africa. Gabriel's one of the happiest dudes you ever met in his life. See that picture right there? That's Gabriel. He's building schools for the Fulas. That's the Fula. That's the Fula tribe right there. And you and I, as a matter of fact, we help them buy radios. with the gospel in the Fula language. So you helped buy radios in the Fula language. Thank you. And we've got the Fulas that are, why would somebody that's from Argentina move to Portugal and then go to Western Africa? Because we are the church. Friends, because we're the church. And if we don't do it, nobody's going to do it. If we don't do it, no one's going to do it. Why? Because we are the church.